On today's show, more minutes for Metu, Barry and I turn on the trade machine, and who's to blame for the Kings' most recent 3-game losing streak. That's all coming up on the Royal Report.
All right, good morning and happy Friday. Welcome back to Royal Rebounds TV and episode 4 of the Royal Report, a Sacramento Kings sports talk show. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so you get to see more awesome Kings content.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Royal family, here on this fabulous Friday. Let's get it started as we always do with some news from around the league. Entering Monday's game against the Atlanta Hawks, Steph Curry had actually been in a little bit of a slump. The guard was held to under 20 points in 4 consecutive games for the first time since 2014. Safe to say he made up for lost time in just this one game, becoming the oldest player in NBA history to record a 50-point, 10-assist game, passing former Warrior Wilt Chamberlain on the night. Steph is aging like a very fine wine, and the Warriors are out to a league-best 10-1 record. Barry, how impressed are you with Steph Curry at age 33?
He's playing great. No surprise here. Shooters age much better than athletic wing players. So I expect Steph to keep shooting them from 3 and keep breaking records. I think the only question people have about this Warriors team is when will Klay Thompson return? I know he's on the practice court now and he seems to be getting closer every single day. It's scary how good this Warriors team can be this year. Speaking of good teams, the Denver Nuggets are without their best player, Nikola Jokic, for one game after a brutal shoulder to Markieff Morris after a small altercation during the Miami Heat game. A stretcher was brought out onto the court, but it was not needed. Seemed like a little bit of acting there, huh, Cal?
Yeah, I'm sure he sold it a little bit, but Jokic is a really big dude. Let's not forget that. There was definitely some momentum gaining there. Other noteworthy disciplinary action from that brawl, Markieff Morris fined $50,000 for escalating the altercation, and Jimmy Butler fined $30,000 as well by the league. A lot of fallout from that game. I don't know when the two hook up again in Miami, but mark that game down on your calendar as all the brothers now are getting into it on social media as well. Some better on-the-court news from the other night. Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham faced off on Wednesday night in Houston. It was the first time this season that the number 1 overall pick and number 2 overall pick in this year's draft got to go head-to-head against each other. Jalen Green got the better of Cade Cunningham in the scoring department, 23-20. However, Cunningham's Pistons ended up getting the victory on the road, 112-104. It was the first time since 1998 that the top 2 picks in the draft both scored at least 20 points in their first meeting against each other. Barry, I think it's safe to say we can expect some great matchups between these two for a long time to come.
Yeah, I think so. Does that mean that Davion might have some competition for Rookie of the Year? Who knows? The Phoenix Suns are red hot after a horrible 1-3 start, including a loss to your Sacramento Kings. They are now 6-1 in the last 7 games, including a victory over the Kings. We'll talk about that here in a second. When we come back from this break, we'll jump into your Sacramento Kings week cap.
Welcome back. The Sacramento Kings entered this week on an important 3-game homestand before they hit the road for 4 games. And Kings fans were optimistic. It started off with a resounding win against the Charlotte Hornets at home at Golden One Center, 140-110. Everything going right for the Sacramento Kings. Very little has gone right since then. The Kings have now dropped 3 in a row, including a disappointing loss to the San Antonio Spurs, the first game this season in which the Kings never had a lead. They gave up a season-high 136 points and allowed a San Antonio team that does not shoot well from beyond the arc to absolutely lace threes all night long. Barry, where do we go from here, and what is wrong with the Sacramento Kings?
Well, we're going to the airport, and we're moving on to the next game. It was a tough week for us Kings fans, 1-3 on the week, including 2 games missed by Tyrese Haliburton. due to injury. He seemed to be finally getting his stride and playing well. De'Aaron Fox had a season high 37 points in this last game. It's good to see him playing well, but just overall a very confusing week. Starting off with 140 points, like you said, tying the season high for the NBA, and then ending the week with 136 points given up, which was the Kings' biggest loss this season. When we come back, we'll talk about this Tyrese Haliburton and De'Aaron Fox pairing when Tyrese comes back from injury. Welcome back. One of the most exciting things about this season was the debut of the new lineup starring De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton. It has underperformed so far, with De'Aaron Fox having a very slow start to this season. Tyrese Haliburton's been playing pretty consistent, averaging 13.6 points per game, 5 assists, and he's had the ball a lot more in his hands. He's also played some incredible defense, which Luke Walton has praised. However, the Kings are at 5-7 at this point in the season. Tyrese has missed the last 2 games due to injury, and De'Aaron Fox has been balling out, averaging over 30 points per game in the last 2 games, which just makes us Kings fans question, does this De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton lineup work? How are you feeling, Cal?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about. You've seen a trickle-down effect over the course of the whole team from Tyrese being out. You do love to see De'Aaron Fox breaking out of this slump. As you mentioned, he scored 61 points in the 2 games without Tyrese. He's also attempted 43 shots in those 2 games. The trickle-down effect on the rest of the team, though, I think is where you're starting to see where Tyrese has really missed the most. Harrison Barnes, for example, just 17 field goal attempts in the 2 games without Tyrese Haliburton. He had 15 shot attempts in Tyrese's last game played, and Richaun Holmes has disappeared altogether since Tyrese has gone out of the lineup. Holmes has scored just 13 points combined in the 2 games that Tyrese has missed, and he played a season-low 19 minutes against the San Antonio Spurs. I'm not really sure what to make of this. It's a very small sample size, but it is true, I think, that everyone is having to adjust to the new offense and the new role that Tyrese is playing, and nobody has to adjust more than De'Aaron Fox. He's been able to get his shots up and get to the basket at will with the ball in his hands. When Tyrese comes back, though, they're all going to have to make that adjustment once again. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we'll look at who's to blame specifically for the Kings' 3-game losing streak. Welcome back. The Kings have lost their last 3 games. It's the longest losing streak of the young season. They are now 5-7 overall, and the recent disappointing play has Kings fans asking who is to blame for Sacramento's recent struggles. In my opinion, there's lots of blame to go around. This is not necessarily a one-person issue. Just going to read a few stats here that the whole team has compiled over these past 3 games. 50 turnovers in the 3-game losing streak. That equates to about 17 per game. That number is way, way too high. The Kings have also shot horribly. They're 30 of 94 from 3 during this 3-game losing streak. That's 32%. And to make things worse, they're getting out to really slow starts and putting themselves in a huge hole early. The Kings have been outscored 95-67 in the first quarter of these past 3 games. I'm not sure if I can blame just one individual person for this. The whole team is to blame. Richaun Holmes has disappeared. Tyrese Haliburton has been hurt. De'Aaron Fox is putting up good numbers, but the Kings aren't winning. And Harrison Barnes hasn't been himself either.
Yeah, we're talking goats here, not the good kind. We're talking scapegoats. I've been hearing all sorts of different things from Kings fans, as in fire Luke Walton, trade De'Aaron Fox. It's really hard to tell here because it has been a whole team struggle. Yes, De'Aaron Fox is scoring more points in these last few games, but he's not been shooting the best from the field. He seemed more like a volume shooter, which I get it. When you're trying to get back in a rhythm, you have to take more shots. I think some blame is on his shoulders. I think some blame is on Coach Walton's shoulders. But ultimately, this is a team game, and team success is what it takes to win. So I think it is a team issue. But one of the most common issues that I've seen in this team this season is a lack of production from the four. That is Mo Harkless and who? Metu. Let's talk about Metu, Calvin, and whether he should start at the four.
I think at this point it is safe to say he should get an opportunity, whether it's to start or to play some more minutes. Chimezie Metu has really, really come on in the short opportunity he's been given this season. He's had a great offseason. Everyone has talked about it in Sacramento. He's a fan favorite. And you're right, the Kings just are not getting enough production out of the four position right now from Mo Harkless. Mo has been out there for his defense, but lately he hasn't really been producing the same on that end of the floor either. The Kings have talked about it. If they could just get 10 points a night out of that particular position, it would improve their chances by a lot. Chimezie Metu had 13 points the other night in 21 minutes, shot the ball really well. He looks comfortable. He's shooting the three with much more consistency than Mo Harkless has been early on this season. I think it's safe to say that it's time to give Metu a little bit of an opportunity here, a bigger opportunity.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Metu's athleticism, his defensive presence, and just his overall energy out there on the court. No matter how you feel about Mo Harkless, I think it is time for this Kings team to make a change. When's a better time than in the middle of a 3-game losing streak? We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll jump right into the Kings coaching staff. When teams are playing well, everybody's happy. But as soon as the wheels fall off the bus, the first person that everyone looks at is the bus driver. This bus driver is Luke Walton. I believe Kings players still enjoy playing for Walton, and I believe they still respect him. However, many Kings fans are calling for the coach to be fired. This is his 3rd year with the team, and they have underperformed most of the time. They had a hot start to this season. Last week, they were 4-4, and everybody was happy. But they just concluded a 3-game losing streak, making them 5-7 on the season. With some questionable rotations, Luke Walton is also pissed off a potential star player in Marvin Bagley. I say that term loosely. But he has refused to check into games this week, creating even more confusion around him and around the coaching situation. The Kings do have some awesome veteran assistant coaches in Alvin Gentry and the addition of Doug Christie this offseason. It just makes you wonder, if Luke Walton is fired this season, there seems to be a few people that are able to step up. So my question to you, Cal, is, do you think Luke Walton will finish this season? Or do you think he will be rehired next season?
It's hard to say. I didn't expect him to make it this far. I never thought that Luke Walton was the right person to lead this team. Change in the front office. I do admire Monty McNair for deciding to stick with Luke Walton so the organization had a level of consistency to make it through this regime change in the front office. However, that being said, Luke Walton made it through 2 9-game losing streaks last year. So I'm not really sure what the cutoff point would be to say that you've had enough and it's time to make a change. Right now, the sky is falling. It hasn't completely hit the floor, but there's potential for that. As you mentioned, the Marvin Bagley situation is a mess. And as the team continues to ride 15 years of playoff frustration, the expectations, the pressure continues to mount more and more every year. Luke Walton's been given a lot of time with this team. He's been given talent as the front office has started to hit on key draft picks. They've gotten some key free agent acquisitions, but they're still not producing in the way that you would expect this team to. So if the losses continue to pile up, I think it's safe to say that it should be time the Kings look at making a coaching change.
I agree. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to fire up the trade machine.
Welcome back to the show. The Kings have lost 3 in a row, so you know what that means. Every Kings fan's favorite moment when we fire up the trade machine to fix what's ailing the Sacramento Kings. Barry and I will take a look at some proposed deals, and we'll tell you whether we like them or not. Barry, what's the first one?
This first deal is Marvin Bagley for a bag of chips. I don't know the brand of chips, but I'm in.
Yeah, I think the type of chip is important here. What are we talking? Cheetos, Lay's, Ruffles. What's your flavor? Flaming hot, sour cream and onion?
Funyuns. Got to do it if it's Funyuns. Next trade.
The Pistons receiving Marvin Bagley, Tristan Thompson, Jamias Ramsey, and a pair of first-round picks in 2022 and 2024 that are both top 10 protected. The Kings, in return, will receive Jeremy Grant. Barry, what do you like about this deal?
I like Jeremy Grant. I'm a big fan of his. However, I think I got to say no to this deal because of the first-round picks involved. I don't want to strap this team. You know, one thing that I talked about in a video couple days ago was the positives on this Kings team and how having your own first round picks is a huge advantage, especially for a team like the Sacramento Kings. We all know that there's a rule now where you can't trade consecutive picks. So by trading the 2022 and the 2024 pick, the Kings will not have a draft pick or a first round pick that they can trade until 2026, which eliminates the possibility of them bringing in any star players, in my opinion.
Yeah, Jeremy Grant is very close to playing his way into a star player conversation. I think I'm on the other side of the fence on this deal. I like it a lot, actually. We've talked about how the Kings are not getting enough production out of the 4 spot. Jeremy Grant fills that in full spades. This is a guy who, over the last couple of years, has shot up his scoring tremendously. He's a guy that's capable of scoring 30 points on any given night. Very athletic, has really improved his all-around game. And taken it to the next level since being in Oklahoma City. He used to be just a corner 3 guy, which would be a great addition in its own right for the Kings. But we're talking about a guy that can really fill it up offensively and give you a lot more than that. So this is a deal that I would strongly consider for the Kings, despite having to give up those picks. They are protected. You give up Tristan Thompson as well, but I do like Damian Jones. And, of course, you still have Rashawn Holmes there. So I think this deal makes a lot of sense to me.
All right, the next trade we have here is the Sacramento Kings and the Indiana Pacers. Kings receive Miles Turner and Jeremy Lamb. Pacers receive guard Buddy Hield, 2022 first-round pick. How do you feel about this deal, Cal?
Man, this is a tough call to me. I love Miles Turner, and I actually think you could play him alongside Rashawn Holmes now because Miles Turner has worked really hard at developing an outside shot. He can hit the 3 with a lot of consistency. The two of them together defensively, I think, would wreak havoc. Miles Turner has been in the league lead for blocks the past couple of seasons. He's a great rebounder. This one I would definitely consider as well. I'm not sure if I would press the button right now to go ahead and do this deal, but I like Miles Turner a lot.
Yeah, I am also a big fan of Miles Turner, and I think he could bring a lot to this Kings team, both on the offensive and defensive end of the floor. If you were to shift Rashawn Holmes to potentially the 4 position, it would definitely fill that out, and I'd be really ecstatic with this Kings front court. I know lately I've been in the no trade Buddy Hield, category, but this trade definitely makes me question that. I'm going to see what else is on the table, but this is one I will strongly consider.
All right, our next deal also involves the Indiana Pacers and their other star front court player. The Kings would receive Domantas Sabonis, and the Kings would send to Indiana Marvin Bagley, Davion Mitchell, Tristan Thompson, 2024 and 2026 first-round picks.
This is a tough one. I am such a big Davion Mitchell fan. I feel like he's irreplaceable on this Kings team, and I feel like he's going to be the driving factor to a culture change. I do like the fact that you keep this year's first-round pick and next year's first-round pick that allows you to add more talent to this team, and I'm a huge Sabonis fan. This is a real close one. I need to take a second look at this one before I make a decision.
Yeah, I agree. This is tough. I also don't like giving up Davion Mitchell. You have a couple first-round picks in here as well. Sabonis is very enticing. That fills a power forward need that the Kings definitely have. However, I actually like the Miles Turner deal better than this one for this reason. I think Miles Turner, with his ability to shoot from outside, can play next to Rashawn Holmes a little bit better than Sabonis can. Yes, Sabonis can stretch the floor a little, but we know he loves to live inside on the block. And I think that doesn't create enough floor spacing out there with Rashawn Holmes. Plus, you're giving up Davion Mitchell in this deal. So I like the Miles Turner deal better than this one.
Deuce Mason is going to like this trade because it features one of his favorite guys in Brandon Ingram. Kings receive Brandon Ingram, Garrett Temple, an ex-King. Pelicans receive Marvin Bagley, Buddy Hield, Davion Mitchell, Jamias Ramsey, 2022, 2024, and 2026 first-round picks, all unprotected. Cal, how do you feel about this deal?
This is a lot to give up. Brandon Ingram is a tremendous player, and he has continued to get better and better. I'm not so sure that I'm willing to do this, though. This is a huge haul to get in return for a guy that does give them a much-needed depth at the wing position, pairing him alongside Harrison Barnes. But I question what the starting lineup would look like if you made this deal. Does Harrison play the 4? Does Brandon Ingram play the 4? I'm not so sure that I like putting either one of those guys at that position long term. It gives you a great scorer, but you're giving up an awful lot in return for this.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I like Brandon Ingram. I like his game. I like the fact that he's locked up for a few more years. But unfortunately, I think the Kings would be giving up way too much in this deal. Too many draft picks, too many unprotected draft picks that could end up turning into a good player. I'm just very hesitant to trade any of these draft picks. I'm hesitant to give up Davion Mitchell. I think the only way I'm trading this much is if I'm getting a surefire superstar, which I don't think Brandon Ingram is at this point. We had a great time breaking down all these trades. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to answer some of your questions.
Welcome back to another edition of Cowbell Questions here on the Royal Report. Thank you as always for your submissions. If you want to have a question answered by Barry and myself on a future show, write it down in the comments screen below this video and hashtag it CowbellQuestions. Without further ado, let's get our first one today from producer Vinny.
Do you think Buddy can maintain his play?
Sass, this is a good question here. Regarding Buddy Hield, he's a shooter. Shooters shoot, and shooters are quite streaky. I think that Buddy Hield can maintain the energy and the defensive presence on the court. But as far as shooting goes, you live by the 3, you die by the 3.
Yeah, he's not going to shoot 50% from 3 every night. He's not going to shoot 40% from 3 every night. As we've seen it very, very many times from Buddy Hield, he might not even shoot 20% from 3 on a given night. Buddy is a shooter. He's streaky. You have to take the good with the bad when you talk about Buddy Hield in terms of his shooting. He'll have great nights where he scores 27, 28 points and hits a bunch of threes, 8, 9, maybe even 10 threes. But then he's also going to have these games like we just saw the other night where he goes 0 for 7 to start and hits a couple late and really isn't a factor throughout most of the game offensively. That's the way it goes. That's what you have when you got a guy like Buddy Hield. As good of a skill that he has when it comes to shooting, he has been inconsistent and streaky for his entire career, and that's not going to change now. Next question.
So why not trade Fox for Simmons at this point? Any rational reason?
Well, I think the rational reason for me in not making this trade at this point is the fact that De'Aaron Fox wants to be here in Sacramento. Sacramento is a small market team. You can't run your franchise like many other teams do in this league. And you have to keep the players that you draft. You have to develop them, and you have to keep them happy. De'Aaron Fox seems to still be happy. He seems to still want to be on this team, and he wants to win on this team, which is a great attribute. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with Ben Simmons and his mental space and all that, but I am seeing some red flags from him.
Yeah, I think you said it exactly right. My rational reason is Ben's irrationality right now. He has not shown anything in terms of a player that wants to be on the court. I realize you don't want to be in Philadelphia anymore, but if that's the case, then you have to do what you got to do to get out. And Ben's quickest way to get out would be to comply, get on the court, play, show that he's still an all-star, and make another team want to trade for him. If you're a team on the outside looking into Philadelphia, I don't see how you can make the judgment that this guy is ready to play basketball in any city in America right now. And you've got a very talented player in De'Aaron Fox who is in a big slump, I understand. But Ben Simmons, we haven't seen him on the court in a long time. And the last time we did, it did not end very well for him, particularly at the free throw line. De'Aaron Fox, you can say what you want about his struggles early on, but that's one thing in his game that he really has cleaned up so far is free throws, which is a major area of concern for Sacramento, or has been for the past few years.
This isn't the first time that Ben Simmons' drive or compassion for the game has been questioned. So, yeah, I don't think that I think he would help this team, but it's just a matter of giving up too much. And I think at this point, De'Aaron Fox is too much to give up for Ben Simmons. Next question.
Did you guys get a new hairstylist in?
Yes, actually, I did get a new hairstylist. Thank you for noticing. Their name is Nobody. I've been trying this new thing where I haven't done anything to my hair in about a year, and that's not even close to as long as this guy.
This is a true fan question. Thank you for noticing. Yes, I have been doing something different with my hair. I've been washing it about once a week. I have this new conditioner that I'm using. It's called Ocean. I jump in it 1 or 2 times a week, and I just let it do its thing. Thank you for asking.
That's all the time we have for Cowbell Questions this week. Thank you again. We'll be right back, and we are going to wrap up the Royal Report. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we wrap up the show today, I'd like to make 2 quick shout outs. First shout out to Max Nasty. Thank you so much. You've been very active on the channel and we appreciate you. We hope you feel like you are a member of the Royal family. Also want to give a shout out to De'Aaron Fox. He just surpassed 5,000 career points. That is a huge milestone for one of the best players on the Sacramento Kings roster. I want to thank everyone again for joining us. Make sure you guys hit that like button if you're a Kings fan and subscribe to the channel so we can put out more awesome Kings content. This week, 3 games on the schedule. We head tonight, actually, to play the Oklahoma City Thunder. Then we head to Detroit and then on to Minnesota. 3 games on the road, 3 winnable games against, I guess, the lesser half of the league. How are you feeling about these 3 games, Cal?
Well, last week I felt very, very good about these games. I'm not feeling as good with the way the Kings have been playing recently, but like you said, these are all winnable games. These are teams in the bottom half of the league defensively, which means the Kings should be able to put up points against these teams, and they've also played well to this point on the road. So things are in the Kings' favor. They need to get out of this rut that they're in, which has caused the 3-game losing streak. And more importantly, they need to start fast. They got to come out of the gates with a lot of energy. We've seen Oklahoma City mount some very big comebacks already this season. They're a team that's dangerous throughout the course of the entire game. So the Kings are going to have to keep their foot on the gas pedal throughout that game against Oklahoma City. And I look for De'Aaron Fox against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be a marquee matchup. Fox has got to get the better of that individual matchup if the Kings are going to have any type of success here on this road game.
You couldn't ask for a better schedule to get your team on track, and that is what we are hoping for. I know I haven't been too great at predictions lately, but I'm calling 3-0 this week for your Sacramento Kings. They're going to get back on track. Tyrese Haliburton will be back. I think him and De'Aaron Fox will thrive together this week. and we'll all be excited to be here next week. We'll catch you guys all after the game tonight, after the win over the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thank you all for watching, and in the meantime, go Kings.
Go Kings.